Sophia's Choice is the 22nd episode of the 4th season of The Golden Girls. This is directed by Terry Hughes, and as always, there will be spoilers from now as I go through the episode and share some thoughts. In general, it's a funny episode. There are definitely funny moments, but there are also some heavier, really important moments as well. And there are two parts to the narrative. Everything ties together really well. As I said, there will be spoilers from now, and I'll go through things pretty much chronologically. It starts off with Blanche revealing that she got a bonus from work, so she's going to get her breasts enlarged. We then find out from Sophia that her friend Lillian has been moved from Shady Pines to Sunny Pastures, and Sophia explains that this is the bottom of the barrel. It's where you don't want to go when you're in a retirement home. And we'll learn a little bit more about this in a moment. Blanche then comes in with some brochures from the clinic. She shows them to Rose to help her pick which kind of breast enhancement she wants. And Rose quite sweetly pointed out to Blanche that men are attracted to her for her charm, and that getting her breasts done won't make any difference, which I think was a really nice thing for her to say. And Sophia then comes in, and she's talking about the situation, and she says, why can't we care for our elderly like we do in Japan? Why are there 17 sets of Hooters on the coffee table? Referring, of course, to Blanche's brochures, which I thought was rather entertaining. And then Sophia decides to do something that I don't agree with, and I do think there should have been more of a repercussion for this. They kind of hinted at not being the best idea, and I'll talk more about that in a moment. So I don't love how they handled this, but they did try slightly to show it wasn't a good idea. Because Sophia takes Rose to Sunny Pastures, where Lillian is, and Sophia is going to break Lillian out of there. She distracts somebody there by pretending that she wants to book her mother in to move in there, while Rose goes to get Lillian. Rose has never met Lillian, so Rose comes out with loads of people who are not Lillian. Eventually, they find Lillian and they run out with Lillian. And I say quite quickly, it's established that Lillian does need specialised, potentially around-the-clock care. Because when she's at the house with the girls, she becomes a little confused. She doesn't know who anybody is. The environment's very different. And that's the bit where I feel like they were showing breaking somebody out of a retirement home, particularly when they need specialised care, isn't a good idea. But I don't think they really lent into that anywhere near as much as they could have done. So there were no real repercussions for breaking Lillian out, and I feel like they only slightly touched on it, and they should have done a little bit more with that. Dorothy and Sophia then go to Sunny Pastures because they want to tell them that Lillian needs better care. And what's great about this is that the person working there agreed. What's not great is that they don't have the funding for better care, more specialised care, and that really sucks. But I think admitting it, I think, is a really big step. Instead of being satisfied with the level of care they're providing, they're willing to admit that this isn't what we want to do. And they highlight the problem that it's all about money at the end of the day, which is absolutely terrible. But Rose manages to find somewhere, and she tells the girls that she's found somewhere that would be much better for Lillian. And unfortunately, the only issue is that it'll cost, I think it was $150 a month more than her current location. And Blanche, when they said that, I kind of could see what was coming next, but I still enjoyed watching it unfold as Blanche in that moment decided she'd give up her work bonus, and it would be enough to cover Lillian with that extra $150 for, I think Blanche said, 2 years. Now, what's going to happen after 2 years? Who knows? But at least Lillian can be more comfortable and receive better care for the next 2 years. And I thought that was so sweet and such a lovely, selfless thing to do. I mean, it feels good, so it's not 100% selfless, but certainly for the most part, Blanche didn't have to do that. Lillian's not her friend, she's a friend of Sophia's, but they all have each other and they're all looking out for each other. And we had quite a heavy discussion where the girls basically realised that, yes, they have each other and they can support other people, as Blanche is doing with Lillian, but not everybody's so lucky. And as they said, many older people fall through the cracks and don't get the care and support they need. And it genuinely got a little heavy. And then they said, but we'll support each other. We'll all go to a nursing home together. And it was lifted back up again. And then the mood dropped again when Rose said, what happens when there's only one of us left? come on, Rose, you didn't need to drag the mood back down again. It's a valid point, but it's a heartbreaking thought. And then, of course, we do end on a bit of comedy. When Rose asks that, we wait a couple of seconds. We do have a couple of seconds to sit with that heavy thought. And then Sophia responds, don't worry, I can take care of myself. Which, of course, is funny because Sophia is the oldest and is unlikely, not impossible, but unlikely to be the one that's left standing at the end. So they did raise it at the end there, but those last couple of minutes were they were inspirational with regards to Blanche. They were very moving. There was a lot of food for thought there. And the whole episode just deals, for the most part, wonderfully with discussing the care or lack thereof for some elderly individuals. As I said, I don't think they really showed the repercussions of basically stealing Lillian from the retirement home, of taking her out of there. I don't think they did as good a job of that as they could have done. But obviously by showing that Lillian was confused outside of her usual environment, it kind of suggested, look, this wasn't a good idea. This isn't the solution to the problem. So they touched on it, but I think they could have done a tiny bit more with that. But generally speaking, I'd say that Sophia's Choice is a fantastic episode of The Golden Girls. It definitely is heavy, but it's worthwhile. And it's funny. There's definitely some comedy in there as well. So in general, I'd say it's a pretty brilliant episode discussing some really important points. And for the most part, I can't really fault it.